The rain hammered the awning like fists on a coffin lid. But it was the click of the deadbolt that shattered me, unlocking not just the door, but the lie I'd been living for years. "There," Tyler murmured, his voice gravelly from a lifetime of New York winters, wiping sweat and water from his brow as he rose from his kneel, those calloused hands brushing mine in the handover of the key. I stared at him, heart pounding like a subway train derailing, because in that split second, with the scent of wet leather and motor oil clinging to him, I realized I'd just let a stranger into more than my apartment. I'd cracked open the vault of my own buried desires. Nicholas Hale had always played it safe, Wall Street drone by day, ghost by night, haunting the empty loft his ex had left echoing 3 months ago. But tonight, locked out in a storm that felt biblical, I'd called Tyler's lock and key from a crumpled business card I'd found in a bar bathroom weeks earlier, never dreaming the man on the other end would kneel at my feet and rewrite my goddamn story. The storm had started as a drizzle when I left the office that Friday, the kind of late autumn piss that slicks the sidewalks of lower Manhattan without mercy. By the time I dragged myself off the F train in Brooklyn, it was a full-on assault, turning the brownstones of Bedford-Stuyvesant into blurred watercolor strokes under the sodium glow of street lamps. My keys, those traitorous bastards, were somewhere in the abyss of my messenger bag, probably tangled with takeout menus and unread manuscripts from the MFA program I'd abandoned 2 years back. Or maybe they'd slipped out during that awkward coffee with my therapist, where I'd confessed for the umpteenth time that breaking up with Jordan hadn't fixed the hollowness gnawing at my chest. I fumbled with the spare under the mat, gone. Of course, courtesy of the super's latest security upgrade. My phone was at 3%, and the only contact I could thumb to was Tyler's, that faded card from the Rusty Nail, the dive bar where I drowned sorrows in cheap IPAs after Jordan's goodbye fuck you text. "Emergency lockout? Tyler's your guy." No questions, no judgments. It promised in blocky font, like a lifeline for fuck-ups like me. He arrived in under 20 minutes, pulling up in a battered Ford F-150 that looked like it had seen more bar fights than highways. Tyler Kane, the card said, but when he stepped out, unfolding from the cab like a man who'd been forged in some forgotten Rust Belt factory, it was just Tyler, broad shoulders straining a faded Yankees hoodie, jeans worn to the bone at the knees, and a toolkit slung over one arm like an extension of his body. His face was all sharp angles and shadowed stubble, eyes the color of storm clouds, and when he tilted his head against the rain, assessing my dripping suit and the stubborn schlag on my door, there was no pity, just quiet competence. "Evening," he said, voice low and steady, cutting through the roar like a blade. "Nicholas, right? Let's get you dry." I nodded, words stuck somewhere between gratitude and the inexplicable heat crawling up my neck. He dropped to one knee right there on the stoop, the water pooling around him, and went to work, picks and tension wrenches glinting in the porch light like surgical tools. I stood there, useless, watching the rain trace rivulets down his neck, disappearing into the collar of his shirt. It was intimate in a way that made my stomach twist. This stranger, exposing the innards of my lock, murmuring to himself about pins binding up and shear line resistance. And then, as the tumblers finally gave way with a satisfying thunk, he looked up at me, really looked and said, "Tight fit." But everything worth opening usually is. The door swung inward, and with it, the musty warmth of my neglected life spilled out. Unwashed dishes in the sink, a half-empty bottle of scotch on the coffee table, the ghost of Jordan's cologne lingering like a bad habit. Tyler stood, shaking off like a dog, and handed me the key with a half-smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "All yours. That'll be $80, cash or Venmo." I paid him in crumpled 20s from my wallet, our fingers brushing again. Longer this time, accidental on purpose. And before I could stop myself, the words tumbled out. "You want a beer? For the trouble? It's the least I can do after you. You know, saved my ass in a monsoon." He paused, toolkit slung back over his shoulder, rain dripping from his lashes. For a beat, I thought he'd bolt, chalk it up to another sadsack client. But then he shrugged, that easy American nonchalance masking something deeper. Why not? Beats fighting traffic back to Queens. Inside, the apartment felt smaller with him in it, his presence filling the corners like smoke. He toed off his boots by the door, polite, unassuming, and accepted the IPA I cracked from the fridge, clinking bottles in a toast that felt absurdly domestic. We settled on the sagging leather couch Jordan had picked out at IKEA, the one I'd meant to donate but couldn't. Conversation started safe. The weather, fucking nor'easter bullshit. His business, been at it 15 years, locks don't lie. People do. My job, numbers guy. Exciting as watching paint dry, but pays the rent. But beers turned to two, and the rain softened to a patter against the fire escape, and Tyler leaned back, stretching those long legs, and asked, "So what's the real lockout story here? Nick, door jam, or something heavier?" I laughed, bitter and too loud, the alcohol loosening the knot in my throat. Heavier. Always heavier. My ex, Jordan, bailed 3 months ago. Said I was too safe, like that's a crime. Now I'm just drifting. Like this place. Locked myself out metaphorically long before tonight. Tyler nodded, slow, his gaze steady, not pitying, but seeing. Safe's overrated. Locks keep shit out, but they trap you in too. Had a client once, fancy Upper East Side type, locked in his own panic room during a fight with his wife. Called me at 3 a.m., sobbing. Turns out he wasn't scared of her. He was scared of admitting he didn't love her anymore. The words hung there, heavy as the humidity. I swallowed, the beer turning sour in my gut. "Yeah? And what did you do?" Kicked the door in. He grinned, wolfish and warm. Figuratively. Told him to face it head on. Life's too short for jam tumblers. That night, he stayed till midnight, till the storm broke and the city hummed back to life below us. When he left, clapping my shoulder with a "call if you need another unlock," I closed the door feeling lighter, the echo of his laugh lingering like a promise. I didn't know then that Tyler Kane would become the key to everything I'd buried. The love I'd denied, the betrayals I'd invite, the heartbreak that would rebuild me. The next week blurred into routine. Spreadsheets bleeding into sunsets, takeout for one, the occasional text from friends checking if I was still breathing. But Tyler lingered, a splinter under my skin. I found excuses to inspect the lock he'd fixed, running my fingers over the smooth brass, remembering the flex of his forearms as he worked. On Wednesday, impulse 1, I texted the number on his card. "Coffee? My treat. For the save." His reply came fast, "You're on. Corner of Bedford and Nostrand, 7 p.m. Don't be late. Locks wait for no man." The cafe was a hole-in-the-wall called Brewed Awakening, all exposed brick and mismatched mugs, the kind of spot where baristas pierced more holes than Tyler ever would. He was already there when I arrived, nursing a black coffee in a corner booth, looking less like a locksmith and more like a reluctant model, hair tousled, flannel over a plain tee that hugged his chest just right. "Nick," he greeted, standing to pull out my chair, a gesture so casual it floored me. We talked for hours, the conversation dipping into depths I'd forgotten existed. He was from upstate originally, a small town called Schenectady where football Fridays and factory whistles defined you. Came to the city after his dad died, heart attack at 52. Too much bud and not enough dreams. And built his life pick by pick. Divorced once, quick and ugly, to a woman who'd called him too rough around the edges. No kids, no regrets, just a toolbox and a truck. "And you?" he asked, leaning in, elbows on the scarred wood table. "What's a pretty boy like you doing slinging stocks instead of stories? Saw those books on your shelf, Hemingway." "Huh? The real deal." I flushed. Caught. Dropped out of Columbia's MFA. Jordan said it was impractical. Now I crunch numbers for assholes who summer in the Hamptons. Thrilling. Tyler snorted, but his eyes softened. "Jordan sounds like a prick." "You write anymore?" "Not since." I traced the rim of my mug. "Feels like locking the words away." "Then unlock 'em," he said simply, like it was the easiest thing. "Start small. One sentence. See where it fits." By closing time, we'd wandered the rain-slick streets, shoulders brushing, laughter echoing off brownstones. At my door, he lingered, key in my hand again. But this time, it was me handing it over, inviting him in for one more beer. The kiss happened fast, inevitable, his hand on my neck, pulling me close, lips tasting of coffee and salt. It was rough at first, all pent-up hunger, then tender, his thumb stroking my jaw like I was fragile glass. We didn't sleep that night. His body was a map of hard lines and soft scars. Faded ink of a compass rose on his ribs, from his Navy days before the honorable discharge, and mine, slimmer, unmarked, yielded under him like it had been waiting. "Tight fit," he whispered later, echoing his words from the stoop, buried deep inside me, our breaths sinking in the dark. It was more than sex. It was revelation, the lock of my loneliness springing free. Fall deepened into that brittle New York November, where the leaves crunch underfoot like broken promises and the wind off the East River bites with winter's preview. Tyler became a fixture, slipping into my life with the ease of a well-oiled hinge. Mornings, he'd text a dumb lock pun. "Why did the key go to therapy? It had too many issues." And I'd fire back with a line from whatever half-baked story I'd scribbled the night before, emboldened by his belief. Evenings, he'd show up after jobs in the outer boroughs, grease under his nails, bearing greasy bags from juniors for cheesecake or ribs from a Red Hook spot that made my mouth water. Our rhythm was effortless, a counterpoint to the chaos of my days. Wall Street was a meat grinder. Mergers announced like executions, bosses barking orders over Bloomberg terminals, and coming home to Tyler's solid presence was salvation. We'd cook haphazardly, him searing steaks on my ancient gas range while I chopped onions, tears blurring the memory of Jordan's sterile vegan phase. Sex was wildfire, slow and exploratory on lazy Sundays, urgent and animal after his late shifts, his hands mapping me like he was picking a vault, finding every hidden chamber. But beneath the bliss, fissures formed. Tyler carried ghosts. Ex-wife Elena's calls that he'd silence with a curse. Mentions of a brother in Schenectady who'd cut ties after Tyler came out to the family last year. "Dad would have understood," he'd say, staring at the skyline from my fire escape, cigarette smoke curling like unanswered prayers. But Mike thinks I'm the devil's locksmith now. I'd hold him then, our bodies entwined against the chill, whispering that blood didn't define family, that we were building something unbreakable. My own shadows loomed larger. Jordan's betrayal had been surgical. After 5 years, he'd confessed an affair with his TA at NYU Law, a lithe grad student named Alex who made him feel alive. The kicker? Alex was a guy. Jordan had known he was bi since college but waited till our lease was up to drop the bomb, leaving me questioning every kiss, every "I love you." Therapy helped unpack the rage. But trust? That lock was rusted shut. Still, with Tyler, I dared to believe. We took a weekend in the Catskills, his truck rumbling up winding roads to a cabin he'd fixed up for cheap. Days hiking leaf-strewn trails, his hand in mine swinging free, nights by the fireplace, reading aloud from my notebook, rough drafts of a story about a man locked in his own heart, unlocked by a stranger's touch. "This is gold. Nick," he'd say, voice thick with pride. "Publish it. Let the world see." On the drive back, radio crackling with Springsteen, he pulled over at a scenic overlook, the Hudson glittering below like fool's gold. "I love you," he said, unprompted, fingers laced with mine over the gearshift. Simple, stark, American as apple pie and regret. I echoed it back, tears pricking, because in that moment, with the river rushing indifferent below, I felt whole. Back in the city, reality reasserted. My promotion came through VP of Analytics, fat bonus, corner office with a view of the Freedom Tower, but it meant longer hours, schmoozing clients at steakhouses where the air reeked of cigars and entitlement. Tyler adapted, picking up extra jobs, but tension simmered. "You're turning into one of them," he'd joke, half serious, when I'd cancel plans for a 9 p.m. conference call. Then came the call from Elena. It was a Tuesday, me buried in Excel hell, when Tyler's phone buzzed incessantly on the kitchen counter. He snatched it, face hardening. "What do you want?" Pause. "No. We're done." That was years ago. I pretended not to hear, stirring pasta sauce. But later, in bed, he confessed. She'd shown up at his shop that afternoon, tear-streaked, begging for a second chance. Said she forgave me for, being me. Thinks it's a phase. His laugh was hollow. "Like loving you is a goddamn flu." Jealousy flared. Irrational and hot, Elena's ghost, fertile ground where doubt took root. But I pushed it down, held him tighter, our bodies a bulwark against the past. The first rail crack appeared at my office holiday party, a glittering affair at the Standard in the High Line. Tyler showed up in his best button-down, sleeves rolled to show those inked forearms, turning heads among the suits. "Who's the blue-collar hottie?" my coworker Lisa whispered, elbowing me. We laughed, champagne bubbling, but then Jordan appeared, uninvited, of course, crashing via a mutual friend's +1. He looked good, tailored wool over gym-honed frame, that easy smile masking the knife. "Nick," he said, air-kissing my cheek, eyes flicking to Tyler with predatory curiosity. "Who's this? New arm candy?" Tyler stiffened beside me, hand possessive on my waist. "Tyler Kane. And you must be the ex who couldn't handle the lock." Jordan's laugh was sharp, champagne flute dangling like a threat. Ouch. Still bitter? Come on. Nick, we were kids. Alex was a mistake. But you were safe. Predictable. The words landed like shrapnel. Tyler pulled me away, into the coat check shadows, his kiss fierce, reclaiming. But later, nursing a scotch at the bar, Jordan cornered me alone. He's a rebound, Nick. Fun, but fleeting. You need someone who matches your league, ambition, stability. I miss you. Dinner? For old times. I told him to fuck off, but the seed burrowed. That night, Tyler sensed it, our lovemaking edged with urgency, his whispers of "you're mine" both bomb and brand. Winter clamped down, snow blanketing the burrows in hush. Tyler's business boomed, holiday lockouts from drunk uncles, security installs for paranoid execs, and he surprised me with tickets to a Knicks game at MSG, courtside, a splurge that left him grinning like a kid. We yelled ourselves hoarse as Brunson drained threes, his arm around my shoulders the whole time, unashamed. But betrayal brewed in the quiet hours. I started working late again. Meetings that stretched into bars with Jordan, harmless lunches that turned to catch-up drinks, his apologies laced with nostalgia. I was scared, Nick, of us, of what it meant. Lies, maybe, but they soothed the ache, made me feel desired in a way Tyler's raw passion sometimes overwhelmed. One night, after a brutal day of market crashes, I came home to find Tyler asleep on the couch, toolkit open, a half-eaten slice of pizza congealing on the plate. His phone lit up, Elena's name, a voicemail. "Ty, please. I'm pregnant." "It's yours? We need to talk." My world tilted. Pregnant? But they'd been divorced 2 years. How? Rage and hurt collided, and instead of waking him, I slipped out, hailing a cab to Jordan's sleek Tribeca loft. "I need you," I texted, the words a surrender. Jordan answered the door in silk boxers, pulling me into a kiss that tasted of familiarity and regret. We fucked like it could erase the months, his hands sure where Tyler's were exploratory. But as I lay there after, staring at the exposed ducts, guilt crashed in. This wasn't love, it was escape. Morning brought clarity, or so I thought. I ghosted back to Brooklyn, finding Tyler at the kitchen table, eyes red-rimmed. Elena's voicemail played on speaker. "It's not mine," he said flatly, voice cracking. She cheated too. But Nick, where were you? The lie stuck in my throat. Work, and the fracture widened. Trust, that fragile pin, slipped. January thawed into a slushy mess, the city groaning under salt-crusted streets and the weight of resolutions already broken. Tyler and I patched the immediate tear with apologies and takeout Thai, but the damage lingered like black ice, unseen until you skid. He threw himself into work, taking overflow jobs in Staten Island, coming home smelling of solder and sawdust, collapsing into bed without the teasing foreplay that used to spark us. I buried myself in writing, finally submitting that short story to a lit mag, The Locksmith's Key. A thinly veiled us, and when it got accepted, I told him over lukewarm diner eggs, hoping it'd bridge the gap. Published? Holy shit. Nick, that's huge. His hug was fierce, but his eyes searched mine, probing for the unspoken. Proud of you. Really, we made love that night, deliberate and deep, his body an anchor in the storm. I trust you, he murmured against my skin, fingers tracing the curve of my hip. Don't make me a fool. I won't, I promised. But Jordan's texts persisted. Innocent at first. Congrats on the promo. Then insistent. Miss our talks. Coffee? No strings. I deleted them unread. Or so I told myself. But one slipped through during a weak moment. A photo of us from last Christmas. Arms around a tree at Rockefeller Center. Remember this? We were magic. Magic. The word mocked me as I stared at my reflection in the office bathroom mirror. Tyascu. Eyes hollow from another all-nighter. Tyler deserved better than my half-presence. But pulling away felt like amputation. We fought in fragments, over forgotten birthdays, from my assistant who'd misfiled the reminder, over my growing stack of unworn suits from Bergdorf's. Who are you dressing for? Nick? Not me. He never mentioned Elena again, but her shadow loomed, a reminder that love could conceive complications even after the lock was changed. The climax built slowly, a pressure cooker of unspoken fears. Tyler's brother Mike resurfaced via a certified letter, disinheritance papers, cold legalese citing lifestyle choices incompatible with family values. Tyler read it in silence at the kitchen table, then crumpled it into the trash, jaw set like granite. Fuck him. I chose you. That vulnerability cracked me open. We drove to Schenectady that weekend, unannounced, his truck eating miles while Bruce wailed about Thunder Roads on the stereo. The house was a sagging colonial on a snow-dusted street, Christmas lights still tangled in the eaves like regrets. Mike answered the door, burly in a flannel not unlike Tyler's, face twisting from surprise to disdain. What the hell? Ty? Ma's not up for this. Tyler shouldered past. Then wake her. We're family. Last I checked. The confrontation was raw American theater. Mike's barbs about city sins. Their mother's frail hand clutching a rosary. Tears carving tracks down powdered cheeks. I love him, Ma. He's my home. Tyler's voice broke, and I stood sentinel in the doorway, hand on his back, feeling the tremor. She reached out, tentative, whispering, my boy, and in that touch, forgiveness flickered. The drive home was cathartic, windows down despite the bite, Tyler's hand on my thigh. Thanks for having my back. Means everything. Always, I said, meaning it. For a week, we were golden, lazy brunches at Buttermilk Channel. Him teaching me to pick a simple padlock, feel the bind, then tease it free. Me reading him passages from my story, his feedback sharpening the prose like a file on a key blank. But betrayal is a thief in the night, silent until the loss hits. Came via email, innocuous at first, an invite to my firm's Galentine's mixer, Jordan listed as a special guest speaker on queer inclusion in finance. I flagged it as spam, but curiosity or masochism won. I went alone, telling Tyler it was networking, slipping into the rooftop lounge at the Ned Nomad where fairy lights twinkled over craft cocktails. Jordan was magnetic, as always, charming the room with anecdotes about coming out twice, once to family, once to myself. Our eyes met across the crowd, and he excused himself mid-story, pulling me into a shadowed alcove. You came. Knew you would. Curiosity, I lied, sipping my gin fizz too fast. Heard you're engaged now. To Alex, his smile faltered. Called it off. He was intense. You were right, rebounds crash. His hand on my arm. Warm, insistent. Nick, I fucked up. royally. But seeing you tonight, it's a sign. The kiss was a mistake. Soft and searching, tasting of mint and Manhattan. I pulled back, heart hammering, but the damage was done. His whisper of leave him. Come home echoing like a siren song. I fled to the subway, the F train rattling me back to Brooklyn. Guilt a lead weight. Tyler was waiting, not with anger, but quiet devastation. My phone, left charging on the counter, had buzzed with Jordan's follow-up text. Can't stop thinking about that kiss. Let's make it real. Tyler's face when I walked in, pale. Stormy said he'd seen it all. You gonna tell me it meant nothing? His voice was even, too even, hands clenched at his sides. It didn't. I swear. He cornered me. Cornered? Or invited? The hurt flashed, raw as a fresh pick wound. I trusted you, Nick. After Elena, after Mike, I let you in. And this, we tore into each other then, words flying like lockpicks scattered. My accusations of his emotional walls, his of my classist drift toward Jordan's world. You're ashamed of me, Tyler roared, voice echoing off the brick. The grease monkey who can't order the right wine at your fancy parties. That's not true, but it was a sliver, the fear that his roughness would tarnish my polished assent. He grabbed his jacket, toolkit in hand. I need air. Don't, just don't. The door slammed, our lock, clicking shut behind him. I sank to the floor, sobs racking, the apartment vast and empty once more. The silence after Tyler left was deafening, a vacuum sucking the life from the walls. I paced the loft till dawn, phone clutched like a lifeline, firing off texts he left unread. Come back. Please. It was nothing. By morning, exhaustion claimed me, sprawled on the bed that still smelled of him, leather and pine soap. Work blurred into irrelevance. I called in sick, holing up with a bottle of bourbon and my laptop, pounding out the stories ending in a frenzy of regret. The locksmith betrays the writer, not with another, but with his own fears. The writer, in turn, locks himself away forever. Bleak, cathartic, but no bomb. He returned at dusk, truck idling outside like a getaway car. I buzzed him up, heart in my throat, and when he stepped in, disheveled, eyes shadowed, we collided in a hug that bordered on violence. I'm sorry, I choked, face buried in his neck. Jordan's poison. You're my everything. Tyler held me, fierce, then pulled back, searching my face. Prove it. Ditch the job. The scene. Us against the world. Nick. Like we said, the ask hung. Monumental. My career. The ladder I'd clawed up since the foster homes of my Ohio youth, versus this man who'd unlocked my soul. I need time. His nod was weary. Time's the one lock I can't pick. We made fragile peace. Sex a tentative bridge. Slow. I locked. His hands gentle as if afraid I'd shatter. But the fault lines spiderwebbed. Jordan escalated. Emails turning to voicemails. Pleas laced with threats to expose our history to my firm, painting me as unstable. I blocked him, but paranoia festered, HR glances lingering too long. Lisa's everything okay? At lunch. Tyler, sensing the rot, doubled down. Surprise date at Coney Island. Boardwalk winds whipping as we rode the cyclone. His laughter pulling me from the abyss. Remember the first night? He yelled over the clatter. Tight fit. But we clicked. We did. But the world conspired. Elena called again, this time for real. Confirmed. Pregnant. 6 months. Paternity a gray area, but Mike's insistence she abort or disown. Tyler wired her money. Anonymous. His face a mask of torment. Not the dad. But she was my first love. Can't let her drown. Empathy warred with envy. I held him through the sobs, but whispered, don't let her lock you out of us. Spring teased with crocuses in the community garden. Our ritual of coffee on the stoop resuming. I submitted the story, revised, hopeful ending, and it won a pushcart nod. Tyler toasting with craft beer. Told you. You're a fucking star. The high crashed at my book launch. A low-key reading at McNally Jackson in Nolita. Friends packed the folding chairs. Tyler in the front row. Beaming. I read the unlocking scene. Voice steady. The room hushed. Applause thundered. And in the signing line, Jordan appeared. Uninvited. Champagne flute in hand. Smile serpentine. Beautiful. Nick. Basically, his whisper was for my ears only, hand brushing mine over the book. Tyler, milling nearby, caught the tail end, face draining of color. Outside, under the awning as rain threatened again, he confronted. He's here? After everything. Coincidence. I didn't. Bullshit. Tyler's voice cracked. The betrayal blooming full. You're playing both sides. Safe with him. Wild with me. I can't. He turned. Rain starting to fall. Toolkit forgotten on the curb. Tyler. Wait. I chased him into the street. Horns blaring. Grabbing his arm. I choose you. Every time. He whirled. Eyes wild. Then show me. Quit tomorrow. Or I'm gone. The ultimatum landed like a master key, turning everything. We stood there, soaked, the city pulsing indifferent around us. And in that electric standoff, I saw our whole arc. The kneel, the click, the open door, and now, the risk of slamming shut. I nodded, tears mingling with rain. I will. For us. He pulled me close, kiss desperate, a vow sealed in storm. But as we stumbled home, arms linked, doubt whispered, was it enough? The firing was messier than I'd planned. I marched into my boss's office Monday, resignation letter crisp, citing pursuit of passion projects. He laughed. Condescending, paternal, offering a leave instead. Don't throw it away for some blue-collar fling. Hail. Your VP material. The word stung. Classist barbs embedding deep. But I walked out head high. Badge surrendered. Into a city that suddenly felt vast with possibility. Tyler met me at the door that evening, lifting me off my feet in a spin. Proud doesn't cover it. We're free. Summer unfurled in heat waves and fireflies over the East River. I wrote full-time. Queries flying to agents. Tyler's business stabilized. Us tag-teaming installs on weekends for extra cash. Love deepened. Lazy afternoons in Prospect Park. His head in my lap as I read drafts. Nights where he'd trace my spine with a feather-light touch. Whispering futures. A cabin upstate. Adopted kids someday. Locks on every door but our hearts. But betrayals echo lingered. Jordan's final gambit came via certified mail. A cease and desist for defamation in my story, claiming the ex-character libeled him. Panic surged. I'd fictionalized. But the bones were bare. Tyler found me hyperventilating over legalese. Fight it. Or burn the pages. We lawyered up cheap. A queer pro bono from Brooklyn Legal, and countersued for harassment. The climax hit in a deposition room downtown. Jordan across the table, slick in Armani, his lawyer droning. Mr. Hale's work is clearly autobiographical. The suit sneered. Intimate details. Jordan met my eyes, unrepentant. He always was a romantic. Dramatic exits, passionate flings. The subtext, you're replaceable. Tyler, waiting outside, took one look at my face and pulled strings, calling a PI buddy from his Navy days. Turns out Jordan's cancellation with Alex was bullshit. He cheated serially, even during us. Screenshots proving it. We leaked anonymously to a gossip rag. Nothing vicious, just truth, and his firm dropped him like hot coal. Career torched. Vindication was sweet, but hollow. Tyler held me through the shakes. He doesn't define you. We do. Autumn circled back. Leaves turning the park into a blaze of reds and golds, mirroring the fire we'd stoked. My agent landed a 2-book deal. Debut novel out next spring. The Locksmith story at its core, and readings packed indie shops from Williamsburg to the Village. Tyler tagged along when he could. His presence a talisman. But his world pulled too. A big contract for a co-op in Crown Heights. Nights blurring into dawn. The conflict crested subtle. Insidious, a drift born of success. My bylines drew invitations. Panels at Book Expo. Brunches with literati who eyed Tyler's work boots with veiled amusement. Charming. They'd coo. Such an authentic contrast to your urbane prose. He'd laugh it off. But I saw the wear. The way he'd linger at home, tinkering with antique locks, while I flitted through soirees. One night, post-launch party for my chapbook at Housing Works. I came home late, 3 a.m., buzzed on Pinot and praise, to find him packing. Not out, exactly, but boxes stacked, tools sorted, clothes folded. What's this? My voice slurred, heart plummeting. He sat on the bed, weary. Space. Nick. You're soaring, I don't want to clip your wings. But this, he gestured to the loft. Now gallery white from my aesthetic refresh budget. Feels like your museum. I'm the dusty exhibit. No. I dropped to my knees, echoing that first night, hands on his thighs. You're the whole damn collection. The heart. Tears welled in his eyes, rare and shattering. I know. But Elena. She had the baby. Girl. Named her after Ma. And Mike, he's thawing, wants me in her life. Upstate. I need to try. For her. The revelation gutted me. Pregnant. A niece, family ties yanking him from our orbit. And us. He cupped my face, thumb brushing my lip. We. Always. But maybe. Looser. Visits. Not this pressure cooker. Betrayal reversed. Not mine, but his retreat. A self-inflicted lockout. We cried then, fucked like it was apocalypse, raw, reclaiming, his body shuddering under mine as he gasped my name. Dawn found us tangled, promises whispered, bi-coastal no, but weekends, calls, a thread unbroken. He left a week later, truck loaded, my story inscribed on the dash. To Tyler, the tightest fit, the deepest click. Love, Nick. The door shut soft this time. No slam, just a finality that hollowed me. Months blurred. My novel tour a whirlwind of airports and accolades. Tyler's texts a lifeline. Photos of the baby. Chubby-fisted and solemn. Updates on the shop. Now with an apprentice. Miss your voice, he'd send at odd hours. And I'd reply with voice notes. Reading passages aloud. Our love distilled to pixels. The humanistic turn came unbidden. In Schenectady of all places. I flew up for Thanksgiving. Nerves jangling. Finding him at the family table. Mike's wary nod. Their mother's beaming hug. The baby gurgling in a high chair. Tyler pulled me aside in the mudroom. Kiss hungry. You came. Wouldn't miss unlocking this. We laughed. The old spark. But the real revelation was later. Porch swing creaking under star-pricked sky. I was scared, he admitted, hand in mine. Of losing you to the lights. Thought letting go first would hurt less. Fool, I murmured, leaning into him. Love doesn't lock out. Picks the way through. We didn't rush back. Life's locks are patient. But by Christmas, his truck was parked outside my loft again. Toolkit by the door. The ending wasn't fairy tale tidy. Elena co-parented from afar. Mike's acceptance grudging. My fame a double-edged blade. But in the quiet moments, his kneel to fix a jammed drawer, my head on his chest hearing his heart's steady tumblers, we found grace. Humanistic. Yeah. Flawed men fumbling toward light. Betrayal scars mapping the path to something truer. America, after all, land of rusty dreams and unbreakable wills, where even the tightest fits can click open to forever.